Hi, this is James Headley, and this is the Living in Naples channel. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode, where I'm going to do something a little bit different, but also in the vein of some recent videos that I've posted with some alternatives to the Southwest Florida area for those of you that haven't found quite the right fit there for one reason or another. So today we're going to look at Lely Resort versus the Landings. Chosen a number of Naples area resort style, amenity rich, golf or tennis or both communities. Chose Lely Resort simply because of my own personal connection there, having owned homes there for more than a decade, having lived there for the better part of that time. But again, fill in the blank with the vineyards, Pelican Bay, Pelican Marsh, etc. And you'll probably be able to apply much of what I've said here, maybe not down to the very specifics, but certainly the more general concepts. With that, I appreciate you tuning in today. Certainly appreciate you liking, subscribing, and sharing the channel with those that you think it might benefit. Without further ado, let's dive in and take a look at Lely versus the Landings. Our first topic to look at is the idea of whether you're full-time or a snowbird. I did both in Naples, so I feel somewhat particularly qualified to discuss this. As you're thinking about this, first and foremost, I would say, how do you deal with temperature extremes? Naples summers, and that can really be sometime in April through sometime in October. It can be very hot and wet with daily showers, thunderstorms, and temps in the mid-90s definitely being the norm. So if you're planning to relocate there full-time, just know what you're getting into. While I've yet to experience a summer at the Landings, I have been warned about the humidity, and I know it's coming. We've started to feel it as I record this here in early to mid-June. So definitely not a cool respite from Naples. In May here, the weather was still great with highs in the 80s, low 80s, and lows dipping into the 60s at night. So a nice contrast. When you toss in the marsh breezes to parallel the Gulf winds in Naples, plus the miles of shade here in the Landings due to all the overgrowth trees, the nod there from if you're going to be a full-time resident, I'd probably give the nod to the Landings. Now fast forward 7 months and the check mark probably goes to the other side of the ledger for most of you out there watching this. Winter months in the 70s are what drives Naples as a destination, or a big part of what drives it, and temps to Landings are going to dip into the 40s at times during those winter months. So for snowbirds, it's a no-brainer. Definitely give the nod to Lely on that front. If you're looking for some seasonality though, again, probably the Landings. Our number two dimension to look at, are you looking at a condo or a single family home? Do you have a strong preference for the type of home that you want to buy, or really is it just about where you're going and you can adapt based on the particular specifics of a home? Are you looking for lower maintenance and a downsized lifestyle of, often downsized lifestyle of condo living? Or does the idea of sharing a wall, a ceiling, and or a floor turn you off? One of the great things about Lely Resort is that you can find everything from the condotel-like Green Links Resort, condos up to 4,000 square foot plus estates, and everything in between. On the other hand, if you're looking for anything but a single family home, the pickings are pretty slim here in the Landings, with only a handful of smaller townhome areas on the island, leading to pretty rare listings for those homes just due to the math. So if you have a strong feeling about particularly a preference for a condo perhaps versus a single family home, definitely the nod goes to Lely on that front. If you're looking for more of the affordable single family homes, probably a little bit of a nudge toward the Landings in that respect. That brings us to number three, which is related somewhat, HOAs. And related to rules of HOAs. Do you have a strong opinion when it comes to homeowners associations? Are you willing to pay some number of thousands of dollars per year for someone else to take care of your landscaping, maintain your community's look, and ensure that your neighbors maintain their properties within well-established boundaries? Or does the idea of paying someone else for the privilege of telling you what color your roof can be and whether you can have a pet cause you to chafe a bit? In addition to the Master Association at Lely, basically, each neighborhood has its own HOA or condo association that sets specific rules for the community. At the Landings, there's just the one master association, and the rules and regulations are significantly less intrusive than those in the majority, if not all, of the Lely associations. So at the same time, that might mean that your neighbor's landscaping isn't up to your standards here in the landings or in line with your aesthetics. So this one really comes down to how you personally feel about this standards versus conformity balance, if you will. Takes us to number 4. Do you have a preference for a new build versus an older home? Whereas it's virtually impossible to find a single-family home built before 1990 in Lely Resort, with most being at least a decade newer than that, the Landings has homes going back to the 70s alongside new builds. Given the fact that the combination of updating and maintenance can vary widely from house to house, there's just no way to make a definitive call between Lely and the Landings on the surface. That said, it is worth noting this dynamic to think about, or this dimension to think about, for 2 reasons. First, if you're looking for more variety in the architecture around you, you might come down on the side of the Landings. Conversely, if you want a wider range of options offering modern or closer to modern features and floor plans, Lely's probably a better place for you to focus your efforts. Takes us to number 5. And this is more broadly the wider area around each community. I think about this as Fifth Ave versus the historic district. It's a crude shorthand way of asking what you're looking for in the surrounding area. Does the cleaner, upscale shopping and dining of Fifth Avenue appeal to you more than the cobblestone and occasional grittiness of Savannah's historic district? And another way of looking at this, does the service-oriented nature of Naples and Marco Island appeal to you? Or are you drawn more to having a real city on your doorstep? Again, to each their own on that front, and positives and negatives to both, of course. Number 6, are you a beachgoer? How often do you plan to go to the beach, or how often do you go to the beach if you have regularly visited the Southwest Florida area? One of the great draws of that area are the abundance of world-class beaches. From Lely Resort, you're only about a 15 to 20-minute drive to Marco's beaches or to Naples Beach. With Tybee Island's beaches and historic lighthouse about 2 to 3 times as far, depending upon where you are in the Landings, the needle firmly points to Lely Resort if you plan to spend a lot of time with your toes in the sand. It takes us to number 7. And this is a big one, the budget. At the time of this recording, you could still find a condo for under $500,000 in Lely Resort. Not many of them anymore, but they're still there, and some single-family neighborhoods in Lely still offer homes around 2,000 square feet for just under 7 figures. In the Landings, under $1 million is the norm, for now at least, with single-family homes typically in the 800 and 900,000s offering roughly 1,000 square feet more space than those in Lely Resort at similar or higher prices. That takes us to number 8, the golfers out there. Clearly, that's a draw of Lely Resort and Naples more broadly, and certainly of this area here in the Landings. To be clear, you don't need to be a golfer to enjoy either Lely or the Landings, but if you are a golfer, they're both excellent options. In Lely, your membership at the Classics is going to set you back around $50,000, give you access to 1 private course and 2 semi-private ones. For about $10,000 less in initiation fee, your membership at the Landings Club gives you access to 6 private courses. Both Lely and the Landings have hosted PGA-sanctioned events like the Champions Tour's Chubb Classic at Lely Resort's Classic Course. That was held there for a couple of years, and the Landings' ongoing hosting of the Korn Ferry Tour's Club Car Championship at the Landings, as well as Korn Ferry Tour's qualifying school, Q School. So with the ability to pay a trail fee or walk free anytime at the Landings, the nod likely goes there in this category for most golfers, just because of the abundance of courses and the private nature, the ability to get on just about any time, and a slightly more affordable option. But again, both have a lot to offer on the dimension of golf. Brings us to number 9. Is tennis more your thing? It's really hard, if it is, to top the Players Club and Spa at Lely Resort. And with an initiation fee there at under $8,000, annual dues at just over $5,000, the Players Club's also a bargain relative to the Landings Club, where your athletic membership is $12,500 and then over $6,000 a year. In both cases, you're going to get pickleball, bocce, fitness center access, social events at each club. So those dues do go well beyond just a tennis membership. But again, with the abundance at the Players Club, I'd probably give a slight nod to the Players Club, despite there being an ATP Challenger Tour event at the Landings. Number 10, that's the family demographic. Are you moving with family, or is it just you and your significant other, or you alone? I'll admit it out loud here, and with all apologies, one of the reasons I chose to leave Naples was that it just continued to become and feel a little too old for me. That's a personal observation, of course, and there are younger people and families throughout the area, including Lely Resort, of course. That said, when I was out for a daily walk in Naples, it was much more common for that baby stroller that was coming my way on the sidewalk to be pushed by a retiree and housing a dog than it was for it to be a mother or father pushing around their offspring. So don't get me wrong, the Landings has a healthy number of retirees, but it also has a large number of families and working age singles and couples. Again, it's all about what you're looking for, but there's a bit more youthful vibrancy, let's say, in the Landings than there is in Lely from my perspective, which again might push you in one direction or the other, but just know that personal observation going in. So that brings us to the end of the 10 dimensions you might want to think about. Again, I'd be happy to talk about specific neighborhoods, specific communities, specific homes with you in Southwest Florida, and of course here in the Savannah area. I hope this has been good info and useful to you as you think about where your next home or your second home or your third home might be. Lely and the Landings are two great communities I'd recommend for different as well as overlapping reasons, depending upon your situation. But there are many others for us to explore. So until the next episode, thanks again for tuning in, for liking, for subscribing, and for sharing. And I'll see you soon.